get up, let me begin. This is 𝗬𝗎𝗓. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down. Get up, let me begin. This is 𝗬𝗎𝗓. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Shout out Young Swish.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined as always by my co-hosts, 𝗦𝗣𝗢𝗪𝗏, Logan Fulmer, 𝗦𝗏𝗢𝗪, jam-packed show, Jimmy on the ones and twos. Before we jump into everything, do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. I want to give a special shout out to all the great content we've had coming out on the YouTube channel lately. Obviously, Know Thy Enemy is such an integral part of what we do. Woo. Props to Evan for putting that together on a weekly basis. But Daniel did a very, very awesome film breakdown in the midst of everyone being upset that the Bengals went out there and traded for Joe Flacco. And yes, we'll talk about that. Daniel did a great breakdown talking about Joe Flacco, the highs, the lows, and everything in between, and what it means for the rest of the Bengals season. I thought it was an extremely well done breakdown. Some people said it was the best thing on the channel.
Oh, Jesus.
So maybe that means I need to just shut up and start handing it over to Daniel, let Daniel talk. But no, boys, I want to get your opinion so far. Joe Flacco is a member of the Cincinnati Bengals now. He's the Bengals quarterback one. Jake Browning is regulated to the bench. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Give it to me. Are you happy? Does this move the needle for you at all? Do you think Joe Flacco gives the Bengals the best opportunity to win? Evan, let's start with you.
I think he gives you a better chance, but I don't think it's by much. I think you see a lot of Jake Browning and Joe Flacco having similarities in their game in the sense of like they are gunslingers. They are looking to make the big play. They're not afraid to have those turnover-worthy plays. And generally speaking, you're looking at like a one-to-one kind of like big-time throw to turnover-worthy play look. And the problem was Jake Browning just not only stopped hitting the big time throws until the game was well out of reach. He also just started absolutely having the worst kind of turnover worthy plays, not the ones where it was a jump ball and maybe it was a little bit off. Like, no, just where the hell were you throwing that ball? And then the in-betweens too, the not big time throws, the not turnover worthy plays, the just errant, terrible misses. Like, the scatter shot accuracy. He did not look like one of the better backups like he used to. He's not playing with the same confidence. And the big thing is too, he was just struggling so often to go through his reads and come off that first read and not feel like he just had to immediately take whatever option he believed was best. I think the advantages of Joe Flacco are you're going to get better accuracy on some of those throws, the in routes, the over the middle throws. I think you're going to get better accuracy on the boundary, the intermediate, the 5 to 15 yard range. I think you're going to get much better ball placement. But I think you also get the drawback of playing behind this offensive line without the mobility of Jake Browning. That's the big drawback for me. So you maintain the turnover worthy play aspect. You get a little bit better at the general down to down accuracy, the down to down consistency, finding the open guy, getting the ball out quickly. I trust Joe Flacco to do that more, but the mobility and the ability to do the designed rollouts that made like the play action boots and stuff that made Jake Browning's life easier, or we're supposed to, those are going to be difficult to do with Flacco if he's that challenged mobile, like in terms of his mobility. So we'll see what he can pull off. I'm excited for him being able to maximize the wide receiver group. I'm excited for him to be able to find the open guys and the answers in the offense and kind of just get you to a functional level. I think that's what we're looking for. And with the way the defense has been playing recently, I think there is a reasonable expectation that they can at least be competitive in these games, which is really what we've been looking for. So I know it's not the ideal option. I know it's not the most competitive option. I understand how you got there, but I also don't think this is some sort of like significant, huge upgrade. I think you just get a little bit better in a lot of the small ways than you did with Jake Browning, but you do lose a little bit of the athleticism, a little bit of the ability to simplify things in that sense.
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest thing I want to start off with is first and foremost, we can't be begging for a change and begging for them to do something and then be mad when they do something that you don't agree with. Like I get it, and I understand Joe Flacco was probably not near the top of probably really anybody's list or didn't really expect it to happen. But again, I still think it's upgraded, and I kind of want to Evan touch on it in general. It's just that general accuracy of Joe Flacco, and a lot of people kind of hating that the turnover numbers and everything are still high and this and that. But we just watched Jake Browning throw the ball right to defenders and time and time again where we just don't have any idea where the ball is going or supposed to go or how he thinks it's going to get there. At least with Joe Flacco, it's there's been some deflections. There's been some, maybe the read was off, but the general accuracy of Joe Flacco that has just been better than Jake Browning's is why it gives me more hope for the team. And we saw it time and time again, even if it didn't result in interceptions, like on the shot we took to T. Higgins last week, if he just leads them inside, that's a big play. And those are the things that Joe Flacco hits and those are the smaller things that can flip a game, unlike, those air throws that Browning was making. It's just when you have the receivers that we do, being more accurate on a down-to-down basis goes a long way. Like, I could not emphasize that more. You don't know what throw Ja'Marr Chase is going to take to the house. You don't know how much an inch difference allows T. Higgins to come down with a jump ball versus not coming down with a jump ball. Those little things will add up so quickly with the more accurate quarterback, even if the decision-making is still going to be bad, like it was with Jake Browning, like it always has been with Jake Browning. That more general accuracy, pushing the ball down the field and just there's nothing Joe Flacco hasn't seen. As we all know, he's been around forever. He's more prepared for those things. He's seen everything. These are going to be the best group of receivers he's ever played with. Like, he has that accuracy. And yes, he's still going to throw interceptions. That's not magically going to go away, but he has better accuracy down the field and these things that can flip the game script even more. And that's, again, is this a move that really puts us in the playoffs? Probably not. But do I think it makes the Bengals better? Yes. Do I get more excited to watch the Bengals? Yeah. Yes. And for right now, and all things considered, that's enough for me right now. Again, I don't think this makes us some Super Bowl contending team all of a sudden or anything crazy, but I do think the Bengals are better than they were yesterday, and I think they will be more fun to watch, which is very important to me.
Totally agree with the assessment. And for me, there's two parts that I was kind of annoyed with, and you touched on one of them just right away, is the fact that, hey, people, even myself, like last year, coming up on the trade deadline, it's like, why the hell are you not making a move to better off your team? And they traded away a 5th round pick, and they got back in return the Detroit Lions 6th round pick. At worst, you move back 40, 50 spots. This is the 5th round we are talking about. And this is a position at the quarterback position that this move, if it works out well, if Joe Flacco performs and outperforms expectations, this move could legitimately save your season. That is the type of move. This isn't a Khalil Herbert move. This isn't a backup offensive line move. This is for a quarterback position. And this is a move, we've seen it work in the past. Look at the Cleveland Browns. He just won Comeback Player of the Year 2 years ago. And this shows what the ceiling is for this move. So for me, the downside, I don't see it. And I understand the one argument I will kind of give, I disagree with it, but we can agree to disagree, is if people want the Bengals to lose. If you want the Bengals to tank, if you want the Bengals to lose out so you have a better draft pick, so you can move on from Zach Taylor, so you can get a new regime in there. For me, I will disagree with that notion because I don't think any team should go about it. But if that's your opinion, okay, you are totally fair to have that opinion. But like I said, if you're an organization and you're trying to win this season, I think this is a move that you had to make, at least for your locker room. Because if you didn't make a move, what's the rest of your season going to look like? Because when I watched Jake Browning and I saw how upset he was today, and pissed off, and rightfully he should be pissed off. He lost his starting job. I saw a quarterback on Sunday, and I saw a quarterback against the Broncos who looked defeated multiple times. And respectfully, Jake Browning was not going to lead this Bengals team to the playoffs. He wasn't. And while he looked good in spurts at the end of the Detroit Lions game, I don't have any confidence in him leading this team to the playoffs. And it was very clear that Zach Taylor and this team does not have confidence in Jake Browning leading this team to the playoffs. Hence, they made the move. So when we're looking at this move as well, how is it going to look? I agree with what a lot of Evan said as well, is the mobility is the thing that hurts you. 1000%. You are not going to be able to do all the bootlegs that you did with Jake Browning. And I liked some of those, moving out to the right, getting him moving in space. You're probably not going to have more than 1 to 2 bootlegs in your entire game plan. And that's okay. What you are getting is a guy who is a consistent guy who can control an offense. And for me, the control of going 1-2 read check down, throwing the easy routes, looking at your tight ends. When I was watching the film, David Njoku, Harold Fannin, those guys were getting peppered with targets. And it's because you took the easy read. And the one last notion I kind of wanted to dispel was people said that Joe Flacco looked terrible against the Bengals in week 1. I thought he looked fine. I thought he looked good. I thought he was taking what the defense gave him. And quite frankly, that's what you have to do if you were the Cleveland Browns. Take what the defense gives you. And that's what the Bengals this past couple of weeks, that's what they were missing. They were missing the easy buttons. They were missing the quick reads, because that's how you get an offense going. So like I said, Joe Flacco, when I look at the next couple games, when I look at this stretch, heading into the bye week, you have 4 games. You have the Green Bay Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers, the Chicago Bears, and the New York Jets. I think Joe Flacco can lead you to at least 2 wins there. And for me, I don't think that's looking at it crazy. I think if you are 2-2 in this stretch, that puts you at what? 4-5 heading into the bye week. It's not the best, but I do think that that is probably better than what Jake Browning would have gave you at quarterback. Yeah. So I think that this Bengals offense is going to look better under Joe Flacco. I think the passing game is going to look better. I think he is a much more accurate quarterback. And at the end of the day, I'm personally happy with the move, because I think this puts you in a better position to win games. And like Chase Brown said today in the media, sometimes a change is a good thing. Sometimes change brings new energy. It's the new guy on the block, the new kid on the block. I think this could be a good thing for the Bengals. And worst thing is, it doesn't work out. At least you brought somebody in to compete with Jake Browning, because like I said, that dude, at this point, he was not going to lead you to success this season. So, yeah.
So, yeah, that was a lot. These boys said a lot more than I could honestly say. So I'll leave it at that. Great job, guys. Again, while we got you guys here, if you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. Yes, to people's questions, Malik, why are you here? You weren't supposed to be here. You're 100% right. I was supposed to be in New York City to film some cool stuff for Bleacher Report and all this kind of stuff like that. Winded up just deciding not to do it right now. Timing's not right. Middle of football season, and of course, Bengals news. But however, the morning show is still going to be coming back on Monday. We won't be doing a morning show until Monday. I still will be doing the recap show on Sunday. But while I've got you all here, it wouldn't be right if I didn't bring this up, because I was very, very hard on the team to start the season. I know this has nothing to do with the Bengals, but I've got to just bring it up. I just want to say Roll Tide for a second. Alabama looks great. Ty Simpson is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's made a believer out of me. There's still some things that I like to see the Alabama Crimson Tide do. But Evan, I'm happy so far. I love how we responded against Georgia. I love how we got our revenge this past week on Vanderbilt. That quarterback had a lot to say. I don't know. I'm pretty pumped up about it, man. Oh, I thought you were going to say something. You
Okay. You're throwing it to me. Yeah.
Sorry, I know that was really
rough start to the season.
Yeah.
Stabilized a little bit. Largely been impressed with Ty Simpson's ability to operate outside the pocket, then reset his feet, deliver a throw. Maybe not the most natural arm talent. Some of those like 15, 20-yard digs he's throwing, those deep ones, he's really – you see him kind of wind up, and when his arm flicks forward, you see his whole body kind of recoil. You see him literally putting his whole body and soul into that throw. Yeah. Fun to watch. But we're not talking about as a draft prospect. No. We're talking about as a college quarterback here, and he's been good. Yeah. He's been better. Ryan Williams, if he could just get some of those drops out of the way, that'd be great.
There's a guy that I'm looking at right now for strictly Bengals draft season when it comes up, Caden Proctor. I'm very curious to see where he falls. I'm curious to see how he's going to test. I
think he's going to be a guard, man.
I think so too. I thought that was just
tackle.
Me.
No.
I don't know if I see tackle. in him, man.
No, very athletic guard.
Yeah.
Definitely a guy with like good size and movement skills, obviously.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Get him
I
get him the ball in space, bro.
Yeah, no, clearly. Yeah. The classic left guard screen, you know, that's exactly what you need.
No.
Line him up as an extra tight end, run wide leak with him.
We could use one
for
of those.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, exciting. Talked about Bray Hubbard a little bit last time, and then the very next week he had like a forced fumble or interception. So yeah, no,
some good things happen. Some good things happen.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's not
We'll
it's not the Bama of old, but hey, we're just gonna be happy at this point.
Listen, man. Anyway, I just wanted to break it up really quickly and not just strictly have a little fun on the show too. Obviously, just touching around the league. Ravens are struggling right now, right, for the AFC North. Steelers are finding a way to stay relevant. You know, they're looking good under Aaron Rodgers. I mean, listen, it's gonna be an interesting. I feel like the AFC is wide open this year.
I think that's why they made the move they did.
Yeah, I think you needed to. I think you needed
Yeah.
to. I think the AFC is wide open, but I also think this signifies that they understand, or they have an understanding that. I don't know if anybody else got this vibe, but I'm going off of knowledge by guessing. This is an educated guess, while also saying Zach Taylor's seat is hot, guys. Zach Taylor's seat is hot. The Bengals have done everything in their power to foster a winning football team around Zach Taylor, around Joe Burrow. Obviously, Joe Burrow's not playing, but just put together a winning football team. And what this move tells you is they're not going to roll over. Simply saying Joe Burrow is out is not going to be enough to save Zach Taylor's job. This is them saying, hey, we even went out there and we got you a better quarterback. The seat is hot. We've given up draft capital, although it was minimal. We still gave up draft capital to move, to bring a guy in here that we think can keep this ship afloat until the pending return of Joe Burrow. And it seems like it's the most worst kept secret that Joe Burrow is expected to return sometime in December. That just seems to be a thing that just keeps on being talked about more and more and more. But I do believe that the Joe Flacco thing, it breathes life into the tight ends. I think it breathes life into the receivers. You got a quarterback that's going to be able to. I mean, I think Joe Flacco throws one of the best deep balls I've seen personally. It's absolutely beautiful to watch. But if you are a fan of tight ends in the receiving game, if you are a fan of that, I'm telling you guys right now, Noah Fant and Mike Gesicki are going to be. I'm not sure if another quarterback targets his tight ends as much as Joe Flacco. So I'm very excited to see what Mike Gesicki and Noah Fant are able to do. And for my good buddy Drew Garrison, who I think is one of the best Bengals creators, your Drew Sample touchdown prop might be alive and well, the one that you post literally every single week. It might be alive and well with Joe Flacco. I'm very curious because I don't know if you guys would agree with this. I feel like Joe Flacco probably runs the play action game better than one of the best quarterbacks to run the play action game. And part of it, he has to do that because that's part of his game. He's not the most athletic, but
he handles balls very well.
He does handle them very well.
He does.
Not as well as you, but he handles them well. He handles them well. So
pause.
Resume. No, but I don't think we need to. I mean, do we need to take away anything from the Bengals Lions game, guys? Is there anything that anything pressing on the heart that you took away from the game? One thing I'll say is Myles Murphy had Penei Sewell in a spin cycle, and I didn't expect to see that. Myles Murphy's looking okay. He's coming along. He's finally starting to show some flashes, right? So I want to get you guys' thoughts so far on not so far. I want to get you guys' thoughts on the the Lions Bengals game.
I think in general for me, just keep it a little quicker. Myles Murphy needs to play more. I think that's been pretty obvious.
Words we never thought we'd say.
Yeah, the position we're in, he just needs to. Like, I don't know why Cam Sample keeps out snapping him. Like, that's kind of insane to me. But whatever. And then offensively, the offensive line is pretty solid, all things considered. Again, that's a pretty decent front they have. Aiden Hutchinson, some other good interior guys. Maybe not the best pass rushing unit in general, but the line wasn't too bad. And then offensively, it was nice to see Yoshivas show up, for the first time this year. Him make some big time plays when we needed it, for lack of a better term. We didn't have much of a chance, but he made some big plays on third down. And just it was just nice to see. I don't think anybody did anything great, but there were some people that showed more flashes than they have in weeks prior, which deserves some recognition.
Yeah. As bad as it felt for 3 quarters, a lot of that was exacerbated by the play of Jake Browning. The offensive line, this is the tough part about the offensive line, right? Is because 4 guys can have a great play, but one sinks it, right? One missed block on the pulling guard, and suddenly the DN's crashing in, and then it's a run for loss when you had everybody blocked up. They had a lot of that this game where guys would put together pretty neutral blocks or even wins, or, finally, hey, you got a good double team, and then you climb to the second level, but then on the backside of the run, something was wrong. Whether that was bad leverage, whether that was getting beat, whether that was pullers losing and not making contact with their man. But it was encouraging to see they were at least executing their assignments. They were in the right spots. They knew who they were supposed to get. You still had the rookie moments from guys like Jalen Rivers and like Dylan Fairchild, but you also had some really good positive moments for them too. I do want to talk about PFF grades in terms of offensive line real quick. Knowing kind of how the PFF grade works can help you add the context, because just like anything, you need to know kind of what goes into the stats. Some, like QBR versus EPA, some of those include sacks, some of those don't include sacks for quarterbacks. So you may be double counting sacks if you're, using one of those stats and then accounting for sacks again. So that's like an important thing. And I bring that up because with PFF grades, especially with offensive line in the conversation of a Jalen Rivers or a Dylan Fairchild, there are a majority of plays on the offensive line that are like a net neutral. Let's say play action on the backside, they're rolling out away from you, DN does his job, left tackle does his job, but they're rolling away and play's not really going on. That's a 0. You didn't win or lose, right? Most of the plays are generally zeros. Guys are not trying to cede ground, trying to maintain their gap, trying to keep you from penetrating, and sometimes there's wash, right? A lot of wins and losses are slight wins or slight losses. There's not many giant wins. Think about how many pancakes you see versus how many guys just getting beat off the ball you see for sacks, right? It's a large discrepancy. Where this comes in with PFF grades is consistency matters, and also degree of loss matters. So let's say for Jalen Rivers, he had, let's say 30 neutral plays, right? Those are zeros on the 0 to 2 scale. Then he may have, hey, 2-3 good plays. Hey, those are pretty good. And those were 0.5s, and positive 0.5s. But if he gets just tossed off the ball 2 or 3 times, those are -1.5s. If he just absolutely gets torched off the ball, it might be a -2. Having, 3 or 4 or 5 plus 0.5s and then 1 or 2 of those -2s is going to drag that grade down. Having a lot of the neutral wins and not giving up ground, they're not necessarily losses, but one bad loss can bring that grade down. It's part of the reason you see center grades in the early part of the season. When you look at the first couple weeks, they're all the top graded centers are like 72, 73. When you look at the end of the season, they're 85, they're, 83, 87. And that's because over time, you have that consistency. The same way, if you're not losing game to game to game, down to down, your grade improves. So keep that in mind when we're saying, hey, PFF says they're sucking or they're terrible, and so they are. Just keep that context in mind of, 1 or 2 bad losses can really be coloring a lot of that perception, especially in small sample sizes when we're talking about a game or two. Didn't mean to really go off on a long tangent like that about PFF grades, but I think it's important when we see bad grades to understand what the grades actually are meaning. So obviously went off on that. Positives for Jalen Rivers, Dylan Fairchild, even Amarius Mims. Some issues still with guys getting out of snaps, guys not knowing routes or being in the same spot. 𝗕𝗓𝗓, Chase Brown, there's things that it's like, hey, it's week 5. Why are we still having issues with these small things like getting out of our stance when we know the snap count at home? That's alarming. Guys running routes who have been in the system for multiple years. That's alarming. Those are things, right?
What did you think of some of the route concepts, right? There were some route concepts where it felt like Chase Brown, 𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓, Chase Brown, T. Higgins, 𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓 found themselves in the exact same spot.
I want to say this because we personally can try our best to map out the route combinations after the play has happened. Watch it back 2 or 3 times, sketch it out, and go, what would make sense, right? Because if you're
let me just specify real quick. Like the quarterback still had the ball in the hands, and they both just stopped dead on their routes.
No. I understand. The point I'm trying to make here is sometimes you can sketch this out, and yes, we don't know the play call, but like when they roll a play action rollout, and then there's a guy at 10 yards. usually there's supposed to be a tight end right there at the line of scrimmage, right?
Yeah.
From a flood concept. So you can kind of infer, okay, they've got, sail going on here. They're going to have this route concept. So you can kind of map that out and say, sometimes the wide receiver messed up here because this route concept doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You would never draw it up on top of itself, right? So I hesitate to just say, oh, it's the play caller's problem. It's the offensive design. What I will say is the more alarming part for me is neither of those guys are rookies.
Yeah.
Both of those guys who've been in the system, you didn't reinvent the wheel. You've been practicing with these guys all season. Neither of them were missing significant time. It's week 5 in season 2 and 3 for these guys, right? So why are we still unsure of our route combinations? Again, it's week 5. Why are we failing to get out of our stance on the offensive line at home? Why are we struggling with those things? Like, those are small things. Before you even get to the football and the play design, we're struggling here. And that's when I'm like, hey, if you're a rookie, this is week 1, week 2, new offensive coordinator, I'll hear you out. Yeah, no, for sure. But at that point, I start going, even if the players are running some of the wrong routes, why? Why are we at this point with guys who've been here multiple years and guys who are in the system and it's week 5? Why are we still running the wrong routes? Yeah. That's when I start to come to the coaching point of, even if the players are running the wrong routes, what are we doing here? And why are those guys on the field? And why can't they be coached multiple years into this system? Defense, Trey Hendrickson, awesome. Miles Murphy, sweet.
Yeah.
Nice to see Barrett Carter on the field a little bit and just get some athleticism out there. DJ Turner, cool. Dax Hill, cool.
That's
everybody else, you're on notice. Yeah. Like, everybody start popping, because you said it earlier, the front office really showed, like, hey, we made one of our few, 3 or 4 in-season trades in the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
That is a signifier, like you said, that, hey, you don't get the excuse of Burrow was out. We give you what you got right now, and it's the same for all those players. Yeah. Hey, there's a changing of the tides right now. Yeah. We're on the precipice of who's going to be a Bengal going forward. Are you that guy?
Right. And one thing I just want to bring up too, because we obviously had the interview that we had with Shemar Stewart, which was an awesome interview. Just come out on the YouTube channel last Friday. If you haven't had a chance to go check that out, it's on my Twitter and my Instagram and on the YouTube channel. Feel free to check it out. Give us your thoughts. We had some people leaving some comments that were pretty disgusting, to be completely honest with you. Some people saying, oh, he's stealing money from the organization and he's faking his injury. Logan, Evan, Daniel, myself, Marissa were all there. Shemar Stewart's ankle was the size of probably this cup, I would say. Yeah. He's not faking the injury. He's working to get himself back. That is a dude that literally bleeds football. He's bored. He's just sitting at home right now, not getting the chance to be out there with his teammates. He's excited to come back out there and play, but he in no way, shape, or form is making this up. I can't even believe I have to say that, but I just saw some of the comments that were being left there. People saying, Shemar Stewart just doesn't want to be out there, and that's just going to be further from the truth. But if you haven't had a chance to check out that interview, please do so. I want to talk about, we go from obviously the game against the Lions. I want to talk about early impressions that Al Golden has made, right, in terms of his defense. What are you guys' thoughts so far on the Al Golden dropping defensive ends into coverage defense so far? Daniel, we'll start with you, Mr. Film Breakdown.
No, man. I think that it's weird because there's some similarities to what we saw with Lou's defense, right? Mm-hmm. Like the drop in back, the defensive ends. We saw that with Lou, and obviously it was pointed out by the commentator. And obviously you probably don't want to do that in the red zone, but I just think that it's weird because this is kind of the same type of defense that we saw at the end of last year. Like, they're scrappy. It almost reminds me of, I watched the Titans game. I think it was the Titans game last year where that's where they finally started turning it around, and they are scrappy because you'll be watching this game and be like, holy shit, this defense looks like trash. And then you'll look up and be like, well, they only gave up 17 points in 3 quarters. Like, that's how they've kind of been all year. Like, the defense hasn't been the number one problem on this team this year. It has not. But at times, like even in the Lions game, it's like the way it started out, it's like Sam Laporta, easy. It's like this Lions offense is making this look easy. They get in the red zone, throw a David Montgomery touchdown pass. But then you get to the end of the game and you start realizing, holy crap, Trey Hendrickson gets a sack. And you start realizing 3 and out. And it's like, you look at the rushing game as well, talking about it before the show. David Montgomery, what, 3.5 yards a carry, only 50 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs didn't have a fantastic game. Like, they are a scrappy defense. And the number one thing I will say is I do look at this team and I compare it to a lot of other teams. I do think that they're just lacking of talent. And when you look at the pass rush, as much as, you know, we're praising Myles Murphy, there's a whole lot of nothing outside of Trey Hendrickson. And that's the truth. You look at, you know, interior, Chris Jenkins had a nice rep early on in the game, but the pressure outside of Trey, it really is, I'm failing to see it. I really am. And that's where you look at it, and I'm going to give Al Golden some time, but I look at this and I expected a lot worse heading into the season. Like I said, early on in the season, they held up well against the Browns. They did well against the Broncos early on in the game, and they've looked fine so far this year. But like I said, there's been spurts where they just look bad early in the season. DJ Turner, for me, looked like trash, and then he started, you know, coming on strong. Like this past week, he looked good. So, to be honest with you, I'm getting very much mixed signals from this defense so far this season.
Yeah, I kind of like that, and I agree for the most part. It's very fine. It's a whole lot of fine. It's nothing like there's nobody like really that seems to be playing that much better than expected. Like, you know, Jordan Battle had a very good, strong start to the year. I slowed down a little bit, but still, those flashes are nice. Dax Hill's been great. I will say that, but Dax Hill's also shown those flashes before. You know, yes, it's more out of a position that feels a little more natural for him in the slot. Yeah, he's bounced around a little bit, but still, it's, you know, nobody's really, you know, overperforming. I'd say not. I don't want to say nobody's underperforming either, because Logan Wilson hasn't been great. The linebackers really haven't been great. And I think that's where a lot of that's what he's supposed to be good at, you know. And I think that's kind of the thing that I struggled to assess, because that's what we needed that unit to be better, and we put a lot of resources into fixing that room, and for that room to not really have as been very good so far is a little discouraging. But it hasn't been horrible either. Like it's just a lot going on. He's trying a few different things, and I know maybe he's just trying to find his footing, finding what works best. But like it's just, we're at a point where this team can't really do that. We need to be playing these people that make the biggest impact. And something we've said all off season and every time and time again is there's nobody else out there making like game changing plays. You know, like Trey's the only guy that can really do it, and there's nobody else that has, you know, has done that so far. And they're waiting for that other Trey's running mate, whether it's in the secondary, the linebacker unit, the next to him on the line, the interior, whatever it is. They just don't have anybody else, you know, making big time plays consistently in the biggest moments of the game. And I think Al knows that, and that's why things are conservative. Things are kind of just bland and normal, just to try to get the job done, not make a mistake. Al's been fine. I don't have any big complaints. Obviously, dropping defensive ends in coverage is not smartest thing in the world. I don't even say it's, I mean, in general, it's not the smartest thing, but dropping our defensive ends, especially into coverage, isn't the smartest thing in the world. When you're taking your best pass rusher, one of the best in the league, and putting him in coverage, it's stupid. If you want to play around with freaking, you know, Joseph Asai and all these other people out there, whatever. I'll cut you some slack, whatever. But Trey should never be in coverage. He's the only one doing anything. He's fine. That's my assessment of the situation. I'm not thrilled either way. I'm not disappointed. It's just a whole lot of average to me.
Yeah, it's tough because, like you said, the biggest complaint I would have is the frequency you're dropping defensive ends into coverage. That's the big thing. I understand if you're playing Dylan Gabriel in his first start.
Yeah.
And you want to confuse him, right? You want to change the picture on him. You want to, you know, send creepers, right? Replace the pressure from other areas, and drop guys into coverage and just really like change the balance. I understand that. Jordan Love is not going to be that guy. A lot of these veteran quarterbacks are not going to be that guy. And to be honest, like, remember the year, I believe it was the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. The Titans were amazing at their simulated pressure looks, their creepers. The Bengals are not that. They are hilariously bad at a lot of them. And again, I've tried to figure out where exactly the quote is from, but the idea is that, hey, if you drop a defensive end into coverage like once or twice, that's a strategy. When you do it 5 times, you're being an asshole. When that guy's name is Trey Hendrickson and you have literally no one else who can generate a pass rush, then you're really being an asshole. Like, come on, guys, we're big braining that. Okay. If you're taking Trey off the line more than once, more than twice, you're fucking up. You get 30 pass rush reps in a game, maybe, like, give or take. You can't be taking Trey off the field or out of the equation in that instance. And again, if you guys aren't getting pressure on the other side within 2.5 seconds, any of these defensive linemen out there trying to cover anybody are going to be hard up, and it's going to be a big play. Whether that's the running back, whether that's the tight end, whoever it is. So that's my biggest complaint. Like Logan said, it's a lot of up and down. The linebackers at times look slow. Just an absolute struggle to get pressure. So it's hard to evaluate a lot of the coverage in the secondary. You see some standout plays from guys like DJ Turner, like Dax Hill. You see the pieces there, but like it's hard without having. It's like trying to color in a rainbow with only some of the colors. Like you can see it coming together, but like there's still pieces missing. And right now, the big piece of that is the pass rush that's struggling to help everything kind of coalesce, I think. So I would like to see more of him before we, make any kind of giant judgment. I don't want to do that within 5 weeks. I'd like to have Shamar Stewart out there a little bit so we can kind of see with, hey, maybe a second pass rusher, what's that look like? But yeah, early return, stop dropping DNs into coverage so much. The defense seems to be playing hard. You don't seem to be the worst defense in the NFL totally. So hopefully you can continue to build on that.
Honestly, I'm all right with it to a degree. To be honest with you, I think that it's important to show different looks, especially in an NFL where offense is king and they're, quarterbacks are trying to get the ball out of their hands as quick as possible. I do agree with you. I think we need to be more mindful of the defenders we're dropping into coverage
and the frequency. It's just like inverted cover 2 is great to run every once in a while. Once you do that, that's a long way for some of those guys to run.
I just think for a team, right, that has notoriously struggled to guard tight ends, although this year hasn't necessarily been that fully, I'm okay with giving certain different looks. I'll tell you who I don't mind you dropping into coverage because they've shown the athletic ability at points and times, and that's a guy like Joseph Osai. I wouldn't mind you dropping him into coverage. That sits okay with me to a degree. Trey Hendrickson, I would just not do that, like under any circumstance. I would not drop defensive tackles into coverage, although I haven't seen too much of that this year. I'm okay with changing the look up a little bit because guess what? Defenses have to become as innovative as possible, especially in NFL nowadays where, offenses are trying to find a way to exploit the defense as much as possible. And if you can take away a flat route to a running back, if you could take away a dig route to a tight end, I'm okay. I am okay with taking away the easy stuff. But just again, to what Evan's point is, maybe you do that on a third down. Maybe you do that at a weird point where maybe a team's not expecting it. Because if you do it so frequent and so often, well, guess what? The quarterback is probably going to start targeting the area in which that defensive end is dropping back into coverage. I also think the depth in which you're dropping back. Now we're getting to the intricacy. We're getting to the X and O's. This is where Logan will love this stuff. But I think the depth in which you're having these guys drop back into coverage is super important as well. If it's one of those things where you're like dropping back into coverage, you see Pittsburgh do it with TJ Watt a crap ton. They'll have him drop back into coverage, but then it's like, okay, you also have the ability to come off of that drop back into coverage, but rush the quarterback if the opportunity sees fit. The hope there is, right, is for you to drop back into coverage. You create a situation in which the offensive line kind of gets active guarding someone else, and then you're able to just zoom in and get a free run at the quarterback. However, when you deal with the Cincinnati Bengals, they don't have defenders that can, mask coverage for so long that it kind of gets exploited often. But listen, the thought process is there and why you would want to do something like that. But it really takes everybody understanding what the assignment is. It really takes everybody being dialed in. That's the only way dropping defensive ends into coverage works. Dropping a guy into coverage saying, hey, you drop back into coverage, you have that assignment. But if there's not an area in which the guy is sitting, go after the quarterback. Your job is not to just take up space and just sit there with your
guard
hands
the grass
like you don't know what's going on. Sit back, think what's going on, and then you go. Somebody said blitz Dax Hill a little. I'll tell you right now, and this might be a hot take, Dax Hill is their best corner. I don't know how I feel about taking their best cornerback out of coverage right now because you don't have, or at least you should not have the confidence in Geno Stone or Jordan Battle just yet to hold up. Jordan Battle, I like what he's shown. I even like what Geno Stone has shown in Spurs this year, but just you want to make sure I'm okay with starting doing more funky things once guys kind of get more confident in the scheme. get more confident with Al Golden as defensive coordinator. Maybe that's a move you throw out there in week 10.
Yeah.
Or
That's
we
what
have a bye
I'm
week
saying.
week 10, but like week 11 or week 12. Maybe that's something you throw out there once everybody is settled and you know the communication is key because in large part, right, we're judging this, but there's also a lot of learning on the job. There's a lot of curve involved with it as well. I don't know, just my thoughts. What were you saying, Logan?
I was just gonna say, like, the dropping the defensive ends into coverage is, you know, is weird in general, but kind of like what we were just saying with these blitzes, it's like it feels like that's a weird thing to start your season doing. You're like, hey, it feels like it's something they really they thought was a great idea, and it's like this is gonna help us so much, and that's where kind of the problem comes into me. Like the idea of dropping a defensive end to coverage, like you said, isn't the worst thing in the world. Like there's totally some reasons behind it to show different looks against different quarterbacks, you know, just based on what you've previously shown out of this look, like mixing it up here and there. But it's such a weird thing to come out early in the season and doing a ton. I just think that makes it easy for the offense. Immediately, if you say Trey Hendrickson dropping coverage, who's the closest receiver? I'm throwing him the football.
Yeah.
You know, like don't give those easy answers to offenses. And I think that's just one of my biggest problems with it. I don't mind the idea of it. It's not the idea of it. It's just why has it been such a important aspect of our defense? Like that's the weird part.
I'm a weirdo when it comes to defense and doing weird things to try to confuse an offense. I'm okay with dropping defensive ends in the coverage. Just make sure you better have somebody that comes in and fills that gap because you don't want it. If you take a defensive end away from rushing the quarterback, that's one less guy rushing the quarterback, right? But if you drop a guy back in the coverage, are you having a corner come down? Are you having a safety come down? And are they good at disguising it? That's why it's, you know what, man? I don't know if Logan and Evan do this or Daniel does this. I go back sometimes and I just watch great defenses. Go back and watch Legion of Boom and how they just mask things so beautifully. I like those defenses that make everything look the same, but it's so different. I think that's why, you know, it hasn't been the same this year necessarily, but remember what Brian Flores was able to do with the Vikings defense his first year, how it wasn't a lot of standout names, wasn't a lot of players. Remember, there were Vikings fans that thought, what's the safety's name? Cameron Bynum, where they all thought he was a bust. They thought he was terrible. They thought he wasn't doing well. He started working with Brian Flores, and then everything just looked the same. They gave you the same look, but they just did so many weird things. They changed up and they created controlled chaos, as Brian Flores calls it. And I think there's something special to be said about that. Again, it's just that takes a defense being well coordinated, right? that sounds goofy to say, but it takes a defense being well coordinated and everyone being confident in what they're doing. Remember, confidence comes from knowing. If you know what it is that your assignment is out there, you know exactly what to expect from the guy behind you. It makes everybody's job just extremely seamless. And not even just the Bengals. You look around the NFL, there aren't a lot of defenses that, in the National Football League where everyone is just working seamless together. There isn't a lot of that. There's always someone doing something that they're not supposed to do. And maybe it's becoming more difficult with offenses doing more spread. It's weird. The NFL is becoming closer and closer to the college game, right? You look at all the funky stuff that the Lions are doing or Ben Johnson's doing. These are all similar stuff that we see college offenses doing. They just found a way to fit it towards the NFL rule set. That's what we're seeing right now. And while we're saying that, the college game is trying to find more ways to become more like the NFL game and simplify it a little bit to a degree to make things a little bit more difficult. I don't know. It just, to me, I can go all day about how weird this thing looks and how weird this thing ticks. But if you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live when we upload content. I want to get to some questions, but before we do, I want to talk about the Bengals versus Packers, get our thoughts on that, give our best bets and predictions. Daniel, floor is yours.
Yeah, so prediction, I'll wait to give my prediction, but looking at bets, once again, this is, I feel like, a big opportunity, and the reason why is whether it's injuries or whether it's a new position, that's where you're going to get your best betting opportunity, in my opinion, right? With different roles, and that's where the books are going to be kind of slow, and obviously some of these props aren't necessarily up, but the avenue that I would take if you're looking to bet on the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm not necessarily betting the game per se because it's a 14-point spread. If anything, I would probably lean Bengals plus 14. I just think with a new quarterback at the helm, Joe Flacco, I can see a world where that's 2 touchdowns. That is a lot of points, and I've got more confidence in this team heading into this game against the Green Bay Packers than I did against the Detroit Lions. But if I'm looking at any props, I think looking at the receiving props for the tight ends and running backs, I would be looking at Chase Brown's receiving props, to be honest with you. I think that this was something we saw a lot, even with when I was watching his film against the Browns. It was dump offs. It was Jerome Ford out of the backfield. It was Quinshawn Judkins out of the backfield. There is an internal clock on a lot of these quarterbacks, especially veteran quarterbacks, and you'll see they just know when it's time. And Chase Brown, hell, even with Jake Browning, he was getting dump off after dump off after dump off. So I like looking at the Chase Brown receiving yards. I like looking at the Chase Brown receptions, as well as, to be honest with you, I just like looking at Joe Flacco over in passing yards. I think that this is something, in pass completions as well. This is a game plan where, sure, they may try to establish a run, but we know the Bengals. We know what they do. They cannot run the ball. They can't. And I don't think that Joe Flacco being on this team is going to change that. I don't think we see Chase Brown with 20-plus rushes this game. So I think you're going to see a lot of the quick game. I think you're going to see a lot of completions. And if the Bengals are playing from behind, he is going to have the 2-minute drill. He is going to have near the end of the game. So I think we see Joe Flacco's over in completions, and I like Chase Brown's over in receptions as well. And if I'm looking at the Packers side of things, I do think that there is an opportunity for some of these tight ends. And Evan, I don't know if you were going to touch on these, but I think that if you're targeting anything on the Packers, I think the tight ends are definitely an avenue. I mean, we saw Sam Laporta absolutely cook the Bengals, and while they haven't been terrible against tight ends, I would take these Green Bay tight ends, because this is something all year long they've been dominant. And Jordan Love loves his tight ends. We saw in the primetime game against the Dallas Cowboys, he was peppering his tight ends with targets. So if there's anything I like on the Packers side, I like their tight ends, as well as Chase Brown and Joe Flacco completions and yards. But you guys like anything?
Yeah, I think for me, real quick, I kind of like two receivers in this game. I like T. Higgins a little bit, and T really hasn't had this big game yet. Really, he found the end zone. He's done some things, but I think with this new quarterback coming in, Joe Flacco, the easiest person to feel comfortable throwing is a great jump ball receiver. You're not even gonna have to worry about timing. You don't have to worry about so many of these things. He knows he can throw an accurate ball down the field, and T. Higgins can make a play. Again, T. Higgins hasn't had that big game yet this year. Everybody will still be focused on Jamar. I think when you're kind of having that curve of learning and building that connection with the receiver, it'll be a little bit easier to trust that jump ball guy off the bat. Not that he's saying he's not going to target Jamar and anything, but just in general, like you can kind of game plan to get Jamar the ball a little bit more with Joe Flacco. With T. Higgins, like I think he can just connect on the deep ball. And it's pretty similarly for a guy like Matthew Golden in Green Bay. This Bengals pass rush, obviously no secret, hasn't been great. And when they have to deal with speed like that, yes, we do have some athletes back there at the cornerback position, but our safeties aren't very athletic. So if this pass rush struggles to get home and just leaves a guy like Matthew Golden to get deeper and deeper down the field and set up some of these big plays that the Packers have had this year. Whether it's both of their longest receptions, both of them to score touchdown yards, whatever, I think there's a good opportunity, both of them, for this game. Maybe they don't connect. Maybe Flacco doesn't trust it, whatever. But I think the thought process and just the game flow could be there for both of them.
Honestly, I see quite a few things I like in this game. Just kind of touching on what Daniel said earlier, Flacco targeted the running backs and the tight ends particularly a lot. There were multiple games where both David Njoku and Harold Fannin had like 4 catches, 5, 6 targets apiece. So I like Noah Fant to go over his receptions. That might be a little bit lower after the last couple weeks not being as involved. I think about Micah Parsons and how effective he's been. I think about how the Bengals tackles struggle against speed and inside moves and just generally good pass rushers. Joe Flacco statue, new team, short week, lacking a little bit of the chemistry in the receivers. Maybe the drop back depth is a little bit different than what Jake Browning is usually doing. So like I kind of am I'm going to bet on the really, really good player against the really bad offensive line and the lack of consistency against a team that hasn't practiced together very much for, a short week. That's what I'm looking at there. I like Jordan Love, whatever his longest completion is. The Packers offense has been very successful, but they haven't been like drive to drive consistent. It's not a lot of very long sustained drives. The running game has really struggled. I believe Josh Jacobs is like the third lowest in yards before contact. So he's getting hit in the backfield as much as Chase Brown or any of the Browns running backs, I believe. So he's really struggled. 3.3 yards per attempt this season. I think they're going to get into some of these second and third and long situations. And Jordan Love has been dealing down the field this year. And to add to this, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, and Matthew Golden all have an average depth of target of 14 yards down the field. That's the average. So a lot of the Packers offense has subsisted off of these explosive plays from these receivers.
Have what?
Have subsisted?
I've never heard that. Welcome. Well, I want to say congrats to you. Holy shit. You have not said one of those words.
It's been a minute since I got you.
Subsisted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They
continue. Sorry.
Yeah.
Subsisted.
Yeah, no. So their bread and butter has been these deep completions. So I like that. Could be the one where Matthew Golden connects with him. I like that. The idea. Have one big one against the Cowboys. Yeah, that's my biggest one. And then Tucker Kraft, averaging 4 receptions a game right now, probably come out about 3.5. I like that. I like receptions over yards, just keeping in mind the average depth of target for him is 5 yards per target. So much lower, letting him do yak as much as I believe he's going to be able to outrun guys like Logan Wilson. I like the safety of that safety blanket for Jordan Love underneath. So I think there's a connection there, and I think he'll be able to get that.
I'm going to be saving mine for the Patreon. Again, if you guys want all my plays, it'll be on the Patreon. But I like the Bengals tight end game to subsist with Joe Flacco at the quarterback position. And I think we're going to see an emergence of that really in a strong way. I think 𝗏𝗏 Fant and Mike Gesicki are going to be huge beneficiaries of Joe Flacco at the quarterback position. Somebody said we need a word of the game from Evan each week.
A word of the game. Yeah, that could be
like,
I'll just go full Lewis Black. I'll just start screaming. Yeah. Sorry, that's older comedian for us old heads. Daniel's over here like, who's Lewis Black?
I'm a little lost there, but
yeah, I know. It's all right.
But we want to get to some questions here before we head on out of here. So Daniel, the floor is yours again. While we have you, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. And, so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Also, be sure to drop your questions in the comment section so we can get some, Daniel.
Awesome. So we had a question from 24K all day. He said, would you guys say that Joe Flacco is the last Hail Mary that can save Zach Taylor's coaching job this season?
Yes.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
I'd like to think so. I hope that's what this move is, but obviously worries me, but I will side with yes.
Yeah, and I also think, they made the move. It's not like you can't say that the Bengals front office didn't try helping you. Somebody else was saying, would you guys have preferred if they went a different route at quarterback, like a Russell Wilson or like a Jameis Winston?
The funniest thing where you had a lot of you can kind of tell when things come together because number one, all Bengals reporters were kind of like tweeting the morning before, like, oh, something's happening. Something could be happening.
They're looking outside the building.
Yes,
like, I sure fucking hope so.
Right. But then it was like you could tell like they were pulled aside, not in front of like the media. Because, they obviously have like the medias that they do in front of the camera that's mandatory. But then they have like these little media scrums afterwards where they kind of talk on the side. And just, it was weird how they all came out and said, and it was weird people. It was like Jeremy, I forgot the dude's name, but he's like, apparently, like Zach Taylor didn't see Russell Wilson as a fit for the locker room because of his, his demeanor and stuff like that. And I'm just like, why would y'all even like let that? Why even say that? Like, why comment on a player that's not even that's not even in the building? And this is me talking from a coach's standpoint. And Zach Taylor, well, who are you to say this quote quarterback doesn't fit personality wise? Like, what does that mean? You don't even know the guy. And I get it. Russell Wilson has had like a weird shtick against him the last few years. I think we could have went a lot of different ways. There was this weird fascination for Jameis Winston, and I get it. People wanted.
Well, the money is also the other big thing, right? Because like some of these guys, like Kirk Cousins, had a giant price tag, and you're not going to pay $20 or $30 million for your backup quarterback, right? Like that. It was never
for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So
And then
like,
the other teams wanted to win, so they weren't going to give up their backup quarterback.
Right.
So like I see how you ended up here, even if
It
it's
was-
not the most optimal option.
the one that was interesting to me that came out today in a report where the Bengals inquired about Drew Lock. Let me tell you right now, if you guys know me,
You love.
I love Drew Lock.
I never
No, let me just say
know.
this. I've always loved Drew Lock. I loved his moxie. I love I just think if you give him this receiving core, again, there's a
I
part
liked
of
the
me,
idea of Drew Lock back when we were at Missouri. And
Yes,
we were like,
I was
we're
locked.
he played good against me. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
The idea of Drew Lock's always been better.
Yeah, for sure. He was the one evaluation that got away from me. I'll admit that, at the quarterback position. But Drew Lock was a guy I had a lot of hope on, man. A lot of hope. I'm happy they did not go with Sam Howell. I heard that was
Evans
like,
twin somehow.
oh my God, I would have hated that to know that I hate him as a quarterback. So I'm happy they didn't go there. I'm okay with the Joe Flacco thing. Listen, it's not like you have your pick as Daniel always said. You're not like you had your pick of the litter when it comes to the quarterback position. So like you kind of got to take it where you can. And obviously Joe Flacco kind of played the Packers a few weeks ago, so it's like kind of knows what he's getting himself into to a degree. You feel fine with this move. Obviously, there are some people that are unhappy because Joe Flacco is a statue back there. But let's not act like Jake Browning was the most mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
He wasn't, right? And I don't know. It is what it is. Listen, at least you got a guy at the quarterback position who's going to give your tight ends. Who's going to take the outlet. He's going to take what the defense gives. He's going to go as the offense goes. Let's just say that. If the offense line keep him upright, some people said Andy Dalton, but I just think that bridge was burnt to no degree. I mean, to no end. Like that bridge was burnt.
I think for me, the only I'm totally fine with Joe Flacco. If you're looking at it from a different angle, knowing how we don't like to give up assets and make these trades, I think targeting a younger guy that could give you multiple years as a backup at this point, because I mean, I don't want to say the end of the road is here for Jake Browning as a backup quarterback, but for Cincinnati, like there's a really good chance it is, whether they just played in Zach Taylor's scheme and he sucked, and if there's a new regime possibly coming in, like are they really going to want Jake Browning? No. So I think that part of maybe targeting a younger guy that could kind of come and at least give some years as a backup quarterback might have been a decent avenue, but who knows what the price would be for those guys. And like maybe that's where the Sam Howell thought process came in, but then again, it's Sam Howell, you know what I mean? So it's like, those are easier. So like Stetson Bennett's an interesting one, but again, that's the only Rams younger quarterback too. So there's a lot of interesting-ish names out there, but at the end of the day, they went with Joe Flacco, and I don't have a problem with it.
Completely. I think Malik was touching about offensive line, and Jared Gunler earlier in the show was asking about it. He said, please explain why this offensive line gets worse every single year. New players, new coaches, still the same problem. Is it a scheme issue? What do you guys think about the offensive line?
It's so fun. Like, I think it was like right after the Vikings game, I saw, I can't remember who it was, but one of the bigger, media personalities in Cincinnati go, gosh, this is the third offensive line coach of the Zach Taylor area. And like, you're still having problems. And like, you've had and it's just so nice to finally have other people just catch up to what we've been saying for like the last year of like, again, we have this all the time where people are like, oh, but this, that, and the other. And then I'm like, guys, it's been multiple coaches. It's been many players. Like when we look at the D-line, again, I bring up the guys drafted in the last 10 years. The hits are Sam Hubbard and 1 year of Carl Lawson. Like everybody else has given you a lot of nothing or way under what you expected.
Literally
with the draft
nothing
position.
almost.
The O-line is a lot of the exact same way. So it begs the question, like one of our very wise audience members is asking, it can't possibly be multiple coaches and 25 different players, because the answer is either that is the case and you really suck at figuring out who to hire or draft, or you are the problem. But either way, you're the problem.
Yep.
Whether that is your hiring practices, whether that is this is our scouting department and we like guys who are this size and this height and this speed of this style, and we don't care. We think we can save them or fix them or make them different than they were for 4 or 5 years. You got to stop, because when was the last time that the Bengals took a guy who was a round or 2 or 3 early and they went, wow, the Bengals are real smart about that. You know, a great coach who went down swinging that way, Bill Belichick. Went down picking guys like Cole Strange going, I know better.
Yep.
And he's still
Guys
going downhill.
that they were cutting first and second round picks within a year or two.
Yep.
Like that's the problem is when you can't self-scout, when you can't have you can't swallow your pride to go, man, maybe after 25 defensive linemen and 25 offensive linemen and 3 different coaches and paying guys $16 million or shopping off the bargain bin or drafting guys in the 5th round, like we have not been able to figure it out no matter what. Let's just keep trying. Like how are we just going to keep cycling out the parts and the pieces?
Yeah.
Like I said, you got a machine here, the Bengals machine. There's 3 parts to this machine. There's the front office, there's the coaching staff, and there's the players. And we've changed the players out so many goddamn times. And we've changed the coaches out a fair amount of fucking times. But there's never any changes to the thinking that permeates the rest of the organization. That says when the new coaches or the new players come in, that says, this is the way the Bengals run and the Bengals do business. Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, you got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Yeah, I'll give you T. Higgins. That's but like you nailed the top 5 pick with the obvious. Like that's kind of just like, yeah, dude, you don't lose the draft there, right? You don't win the draft there, you lose it there, right? By picking wrong guys or failing to develop them. Like it's just all the other picks have been such spectacular whiffs. And we can't just keep going, well, Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap. Guys, that was fucking 13 years ago. Like, what since then? What since Zeitler? What since Clint Bowling? What since Andrew Whitworth?
Do you agree with the there definitely seems to be some breed of contentment from Andrew Whitworth still with the organization. Do you agree with his assessment recently? He seems to be kind of hitting home that, the Bengals don't evaluate offensive line. Things we've said already, but do you think that there's a little bitterness there, or do you think that there is like
I think there's some bitterness there. And I think, again, this is from me reading into the comments made from Trey Hendrickson and his situation. This is me reading into the Andrew Whitworth situation. This is me talking to guys who were on the team with Marvin and Sanu when they were trying to get contracts. And the problem, I think, is that we keep coming back to the Brown family are litigators. They are lawyers, and they have a valuation. They have a number, and they say, this is our number. And it might change a little bit, or the terms of the agreement might change a little bit, but largely that's their number, and they see it as a complete and utter failure and loss by them if they move off that number at all. Even if the market dictates that, they're happy to say, yeah, we'll let you walk, right? And that's how you lose a lot of players like Jesse Bates, like Justin Houston. Or sorry, not Justin Houston.
I was going to say, when was he here?
Justin Smith.
Justin Smith,
yeah. It's how you let these guys walk out while they're still playing good ball, while they're still talented. And it's, again, a matter of $1 million, $2 million on a $20 million deal, on a $16 million deal.
Yeah.
And as soon as 3 or 4 deals are signed, you've got that guy to bargain for 3 or 4 years, right? There are ways to be creative, but they refuse to do that. They say, that's not how we operate. This is the number we've chosen. And even if we overpay you by $1 million or $2 million, we've lost. We've lost our negotiation. If we give you more guaranteed money, because that's the way they approach it, is a negotiation.
Sure.
This is a mediation. I'm a lawyer. I'm litigating this. This is our parameter. This is our line. We don't cross it or we lose. It's not a zero-sum game like that. If you overpay by $1 million, yeah, you overpaid a little bit, but you still get the really good fucking player on your team.
Right.
So it's not like you lose, but I think they have that mentality. Whereas Jesse Bates is walking out of the room, shaking his head, going, damn, dude. Or Andrew Whitworth is going out of the room, shaking his head, going, damn, dude, I wasn't even asking for market setting money. I was just asking for a competitive offer. That's the thing, is they're saying, like, I don't think Trey's lying when he said, I didn't ask for the fucking moon. I didn't ask for the top dollar. I'm just asking to be paid what I'm worth. Because now we've got Trey and Andrew and Jesse and all these guys saying it. So somebody's lying here.
Right.
And every single thing, like we said, all these components are pointing right back to the front office here. That there's something top down going on in the organizational philosophy that is holding you back.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's where I land on that.
I agree.
Awesome. We got a bunch of questions in the comments, a couple to rattle off. Somebody was asking, Travis Waller said, any chance we trade for any Raiders as they look to be in a down season? Personally, I don't think so. I mean, Jacoby Myers is probably the only guy that they would even consider in a trade, and I just don't know if the Bengals would end up doing something like that. Jacqueline Hyde asked, do you guys think Jalen Rivers is in for the season now at offensive guard?
I'd say so. I mean, he's been there, he's been
guard.
playing, he's been pretty well. Like, there's nobody knocking on the door to take his job. I mean, there's no reason Lucas Patrick should come in and take his job. Like, we're at the point where he's younger. I don't want to say in evaluation mode just yet, but we're kind of trending that way. And it's not like he's been bad. You know, he hasn't given you a reason to bench him yet, so I don't know why you would.
We had somebody, Keith, asked, do you guys think that the Bengals should draft a quarterback at some point in the draft next year?
No,
It's hard to tell.
yeah, it really depends on how the draft shakes out. I really think so. I don't think you want to. I still think there's some positions on the roster that can use some upgrades.
It's something that we've talked about
Yeah.
the years prior when we had 10 picks in the draft and used them all.
Let's do it
and
this way. What position do you feel like you don't need to upgrade on the Bengals right now? Quarterback and wide receiver. And I
Quarterback,
think
wide receiver,
that's
yeah.
probably where the list ends.
Maybe tight end.
I
Well, I guess free
think
agency.
that the Bengals
Running back, maybe. Like
I think you can tell early on how the Bengals are going to target this thing, and I fully expect them probably to hone in on the defensive tackle position in the draft this year if they don't grab one in free agency. And looking at the free agency list, I don't know if there's any that come to mind that you are like jumping out of your seat to grab. But I definitely think they're going to hone on the defensive tackle spot this year. It's probably going to come down to defensive tackle and offensive lineman. I really think so.
they could have got 𝗫𝗼.
He's been,
Dude, I know.
for Seattle, he has been.
Oh, that's
Honestly,
what
well, hear me out. It's been such a bad there. Like, at what point do you just say fuck them picks and just go out there and you just trade for a guy? Like, at what point do you? Because like you've been doing this wishing.
Problem is, right?
Wait, hear me out.
Yeah,
They've been doing this wishing and praying game for the last couple of years. It has literally burnt them the last 3 years.
Trade for Jeffrey Simmons. Yeah, no, I hear you 100%. But the problem is, as soon as that contract comes up, the Bengals pick their number.
Yes.
And they sit there and say, well, you're going to be 30 in 2 years, so we're going to drop the value of how we value you 10%, and the market's going, you will.
And that's the issue with having even good guys that are stepping up at the guard spot.
If you get a good guard, they don't value it. So as soon as that guy's saying, I want more than $5 or $6 million a year, they're going to go, we don't value you that way.
Like if Dylan Fairchild goes out there and does great for them, right? And let's say Jalen Rivers continues to be that guard that you're hoping he is. What do you do? What do they do then? Do you really think the Bengals, because what the market dictates are these guys are getting paid 13, 14, 15, some even $18 million a year. Bengals aren't doing that. And then you're stuck in this cycle again. Like one question we have to ask ourselves is, when do the Bengals address the left tackle spot? At what point do the Bengals?
That needs to happen soon.
When do they do that? Because like that's a real thing. Not unless Orlando Broncos just turn back the clock and just be better than what he's been. Like, what happens then? Do they go out there and then they say, hey, you know what? We're gonna draft a guy this year, then you're spending another premium pick on a draft.
You can't say we're just gonna put multiple 3rd and 4th round picks or 5th round picks, is the way they've been doing it a lot, and into getting our offensive line and drafting and developing these guys, because it is so damn hard to hit on offensive linemen in the first 2 or 3 rounds, let alone you're waiting until round 5 to take a guy who is probably a senior, who has either not reached his potential in 5 years of playing college or 4 years of playing, or doesn't have the physical skills to be taken higher. And then you're constantly trying to make a guy who's okay be functional. And then you go, yeah, look at that. All right, Cordell Volson, awesome. And it's like, yeah, but the thing about Cordell Volson is it was always, he's playing really well for a 4th round pick from a D2 school. Like that was always the thing. It's like, yes, he's played well for a guy of that caliber. Like, and that was the thing, is it wasn't, no, you can't improve upon that. But again, like you said, they're not going to value guard like that. And that's kind of the organizational philosophy stuff that I keep talking about, where D tackle Geno was a monster, and they did no self-scouting or awareness about that to go, man, that was a really big deal. Or DJ Turner or DJ Reader. DJ Reader really open things up for us the rest of the way on offense. And they go, all right, well, we'll throw $2 or $3 million at TJ Slate and it'll be the same thing. Like eventually we can't keep doing the Lyle Collins thing. We can't keep doing the Cordy Glenn thing. We can't keep getting the little fucking small thumb-sized Band-Aid and putting it on the gash and going, all right, good enough for now. We've stopped the bleeding a little bit. Like, no, the idea is to solve the problem so you can stop fucking playing in the bargain bin every goddamn year trying to fix it.
Yep.
That's the problem, is that you keep taking all of these half measures. Oh, we really like Cody Ford, though. The fuck you do. Stop it. Get help. This is the third team he's been on in 3 years. The team that didn't even want him and the team that signed him didn't even want him for full seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Stop it. Get out.
We have a great comment by our friend of the show, Simone G. She says, the family who makes money off the Bengals refuses to spend money to keep them around. Ooh. Cooking. Is that someone's girlfriend?
Yeah, she might be repeating some things she probably hears for hours on end at home.
She's checking her notes of things I want to say.
Let's get to one more question before we head out of here.
We had a question about the Bengals potentially extending some of their guys like Dax Hill,
I would.
Miles Murphy.
I would. Dax Hill's bounced back so nicely off of the ACL tear. But we haven't even talked about Cam Taylor-Britt getting benched. He's benched.
He's not coming back.
He's not coming back. It's over with.
I think if you're looking at the defense and you're saying outside of Trey Hendrickson, who's a part of the future going forward, I think you're still figuring out Jordan Battle.
Yeah.
Obviously, Shamar Stewart's getting figured out. Miles Murphy is kind of on that point of like, does the new regime keep him around? Because it's at that point where you got to start making decisions on his contract because it's about to start getting expensive.
Mm-hmm. Dude, but let me ask you a question. Do you trade if Cam Taylor-Britt's not coming back in the lineup? Do you trade him? Like, what's
his value right now?
I know.
Expiring contract, 5th round pick.
But hear me out. There are some teams out there, right? There's some team out there that's probably looking at it like, we can get more out of him than that. And, because to be honest with you, the Cincinnati is just not an environment for him that's conducive to him to have success. This is him where he's fallen on his face, right? Mm-hmm. And I have some thoughts behind that too. But I'll say, at what point, if you're a functioning organization, at what point do you say, hey, let's move off of Cam Taylor-Britt, let's try to get some assets for him. Hey, let's try to get a 5th round pick. The 5th round pick we just traded. Let's try to get something for him. At what point do you say that? Because if you're not planning to play that guy again, if you don't see him as a reliable starter for you, well, that's when a organization that's functioning the right way will start to look to offload him. Because what is the alternative? You're going to let him walk? Are you going to go with that the old mantra used to go by, hey, you know, we'll just get our compensatory picks? Is that what you're going to go off of? Or are you're going to actually look to trade this guy and get something of value that can help you maybe during the draft this upcoming season? I have no idea, but I think this might be a good time to offload him.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
I don't disagree at all. We're talking about the contract extensions in general. I wouldn't mind I don't want to say getting ahead because it's not like some big deal breaking thing, but I would totally be down bringing back DJ Turner for a cheap, affordable deal earlier now, because we see the cornerback position. He's solid. Maybe he's still got room to develop. He's still younger. He's a great athlete.
He's your number 2 corner.
Yeah, and if you can pay him as a number 2 corner,
Who's
DJ Turner.
Oh yeah, I like
getting out ahead on that extension a little bit, just providing you a couple extra years for a super solid corner. You'd still be chasing your CB1. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's our cornerback one of the future, but that's a solid player you want. And if I can have a solid player that's a good athlete on my team that still has room to grow, I'd be all for something like that.
If you're telling me you're bringing back Dax on a contract and you extend DJ Turner to a reasonable deal, and then you add like a rookie in the top 2-3 rounds next year to that cornerback rotation, take pressure off them. Hey, if they exceed and they can match those expectations as a rookie, great. But if they need time, if they need to kind of take a back seat, be the 3rd corner, be a slot corner to start.
And this would, to our point, guys, just so we're not talking about this next year, this is the time where old Bengals, back when Leon Hall was here, they, for some reason, didn't even try to bring Jonathan
Terrence Newman, Reggie Nelson.
This is the time where you would get ahead on the extension, sign these guys so he doesn't even enter a contract dispute before they ask to be paid like a top tier corner.
Jonathan Joseph.
This is the time where you get ahead on it right now, so that this doesn't even get factored in. If I'm the Bengals, I'm approaching these guys now with contract offers.
You're getting a steal. Dax, we give you, here you go. Right. Here's some assured guaranteed money. You've had injuries.
Right. And to me, I think that makes sense. And honestly, it'd be a breath of fresh air because the Bengals have not done the greatest of job, right, with drafting, developing, and then retaining as of recently. Obviously, Logan Wilson came. Jermaine Pratt's contract proved to be a mistake, right? And then they moved off of that. But outside of the obvious of Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, a lot of guys haven't seen that second contract. And I think bringing a guy like DJ Turner back, bringing a guy back like Dax Hill back, if they've shown you enough, and I've got to think Dax has shown you enough that he can be a cornerback of the future, a guy you sort of build around in that secondary. I think it behooves them to get ahead of it.
Who was that corner that they signed from the Vikings?
Trey Waynes.
Yeah.
Trey Waynes, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, you give this guy like some money and hey, it didn't work out. Okay. But you took that swing and guess what? How much did it fucking hurt you? Were we sitting around going, damn, really, that swing on Trey Waynes didn't work out.
No.
Now they're hamstrung and tight. Like, no, dude, take some upside swing on some guys. If that has to be your own guys and you get a discount on top of that, fuck yeah, dude.
Right.
A little bit of stability would just be great for this team because, like you said, at the beginning of the season, you're wondering who's going to be the decent players, who's just down to down going to be in the right spot. Dax Hill around the ball constantly. DJ Turner has been really good in coverage. Like,
and then if let's say, for instance, you find yourself bringing in a new coaching staff, right? And that new head coach is like, hey, I need to bring in a new DC. Well, what's going to save that? What's going to attract that DC to this job? Okay, what are the pieces that are going to show me a level of continuity here? What are the pieces that we can build around? Is it
5 new guys in the secondary is probably not an easy sell.
Right.
Yeah. Nobody on the D line.
Like I can understand, like, I think some of the changes the Bengals make or need to make don't necessarily have to be drastic wholesale changes, right? Like if you have found your offensive guards for the future, and by the future in Bengals terms, I mean the next 3 years, guys like Dylan Fairchild and Jalen Rivers, okay, then that means you don't have to rip up the whole offensive line. You don't have to get 2 new guards, a center, wink, wink. You don't have to get a center, and then maybe a tackle as well. But maybe if you found your guards of the future, then you can go out there and say, hey, maybe we look at Connor McGovern, who's going to be a free agent this year of the Buffalo Bills. Maybe you bring him in here, right? And then maybe you address the left tackle position and you really go all in on whatever that looks like for you. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but I think that attacking this thing with a more calculated approach is something that could help this organization. I mean, you do have 2 assistant general managers now, or 3, something crazy like that, right? So what are we working towards? What are we doing here, right? But these are the conversations that need to start happening now as we start looking ahead. Listen, we got really deep on what we think the Bengals should do. Let us know down in the comment section what you guys' thoughts are. If you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Listen, we appreciate you guys for making this Wednesday show, a part of your regular routine every single Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, State of the Jungle. We really, really do appreciate you guys. Again, we'll be live again for the Bengals recap show. Make sure you stay locked to the YouTube channel for Know Thy Enemy, as Evan gives you the keys to victory for the Bengals taking on the Green Bay Packers this week. I'll be live for the recap show, and then I'll be live again for Monday morning for the sit down morning show. We appreciate you guys so much. And as